Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Verona Township Council for Monday, the 16th of December, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Public Meetings Act compliance statements?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice, along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice in the meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and sent to the official newspapers of the township, the Verona City Grove Times and the Star Ledger, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and handouts can be viewed online at veronanj.org/council meetings. The public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland?
Here.
Councilwoman McGrath?
Here.
Councilman Roman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Present.
Mayor Tamburo?
There.
Mayor, also present tonight is Rosemary Fiera from the Eloy Law Firm, Township Manager Joseph Diarco, Deputy Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kiernan.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. As we start our last meeting before the new year, couple items on my report. Thank you to everybody who participated in the Fair and Square. We had a great number of attendees and a record number of vendors this year. It was a cold day, but still well populated, people had good times. And it was, of course, a pleasure, as always, to introduce the big man himself, Santa Claus. And my approval rating for the 0 to 9-year-old age bracket significantly increases during that time. But it was lovely, and thank you to the Verona Fire Department for their assistance, our Public Works Department, our Buildings and Grounds Department, our Public Information Officer, Lisa Northrup, the Verona Rescue Squad, the Police Department, and all of our vendors, restaurants, and everybody who helped, as well as our performing arts groups. It was really just a lovely day, as always. The Verona Environmental Commission had its junior commissioner presentations last week in the council chambers. The junior commissioners presented on topics that they had pretty extensively researched this year. The presentations were excellent. They were the two young ladies who did it, one being a junior in high school, one being a sophomore in high school, Nia and Cece, respectively, did presentations with such professionalism on such interesting topics. They were so knowledgeable. Poise with which they presented was really outstanding, and it was just a pleasure to be here. They also took questions, which is always my favorite part of engaging our students as well. So thank you to everybody who made to support those young women and what they are doing. The Verona Environmental Commission met this week to establish some goals for the next year, to do site plan review and various other items, and to also review applications for the new junior members. So 2 new junior commissioners will start in January, and we're excited to see what they do there as well. The Environmental Commission also sent the council their annual report, and I've asked them to come in January to present the highlights of that report, as this is a great, very working board that we have there. Before this meeting, I was on a Zoom call with the White House Department of Intergovernmental Affairs, Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, about the drone issue in New Jersey. There were representatives from the FAA and the FBI and various other government departments talking about what's happening. And the big takeaway on this, the meeting was held by Chatham House Rules, so I can't say who said anything in particular, but I can share some details, because they don't see an imminent threat right now. They're also concerned that the search for drones has resulted in more drones being flown, and that's why sightings have gone up. The biggest issue right now is people shooting lasers into the air in their drone searching and potentially blinding pilots and causing severe eye damage. So I'm sure nobody that is on this call is doing that, but if you see anybody doing that or shining lasers into the sky, please call the police immediately so we can stop that, as we are in a flight path for Newark Airport. And if I have any updates, I will get them out. We are having our Hanukkah menorah lighting on the 26th of December. I hope to see everybody there at 6 o'clock here at the Civic Center. And finally, a Merry Christmas to all who celebrate and the happiest of New Year's. And at this time, I will call Mr. Coltrane, our Essex County liaison, up. Jay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and hopefully on December 25th, Santa does not get hit with laser or a drone. That being said, I only have two things. This coming week on the 19th, which is Thursday, we will have our food distribution again at the Cherry Blossom Center in Newark, which is on the border of Belleville, where we will be giving out 1,000 boxes of food and turkeys. The other thing that's going on in our county is we have our fabulous holiday lights, and they will be open until the end of the year, except for December 24th and 25th. That being said, I have a light agenda. I'm wishing everyone a happy holiday. Myself and the county executive wishes you all a very good holiday, good Christmas, Hanukkah, and whatever else you celebrate. That being said, but be careful, Santa, because I still believe. Anything from the council?
Any questions?
Thank you. Have a great holiday.
Thank you. Right. And finally, I have two appointments on the agenda this evening. Is the reappointment of two members of our committees. The first is Arjun Thacker from the Library Board of Trustees. So I'm reappointing Arjun to that role, and then Ira Jacobs to the Shade Tree Commission. Both of the terms will expire 12/31 of 2029. And that is my report, Mr. Diarco.
Thank you, Mayor. Wrapping up, since it's December, my agenda report has no new items on it. I did want to advise you that the transition to the Bloomfield and County Health Department will be effective January 1st. All our staffs have met and they've coordinated the exchange of files and information, and will pick up on January 1st. And in this morning was a communication from the engineers for the country club, road drainage plans that they to mitigate the flooding in Verona will be reviewed by Boswell Engineering, and reports will come to you in the near future. And that's all I have for you. And then we do have the public hearing for community development block grant application for the Everfield walkway.
Would you like to do that now, Mr. Diarco?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me just pull that up. Okay. At this time,
Yeah.
I need a motion to approve the resolution labeled as EA in the meeting binder, and then we will have our public hearing on that application. The motion is made by the Councilman Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made by Councilwoman Holland. At this time, I will open for the public hearing on resolution EA. Madam Clerk, would you please read the public participation statements?
Oh, yes, I'm just gonna have the deputy manager give an overview, if that's okay?
Yeah, no, so I'm not opening yet. Go ahead.
Sure, the township is required to hold this public hearing for our upcoming CDBG grant application. There was a grant application, there were two grant applications submitted in the prior year, which were both awarded money for those projects. The Everett Field was included in our grant application last year for ADA compliant walkways around the site. The township was awarded $60,000 towards that project. This would be a second application for the exact same project for the same intention of providing ADA compliant walkways around the Everett Field site that is currently in final design. So this is the mandatory required public hearing for that grant application.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. All right. At this time, I will open for a public hearing on this. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the public participation statement.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this particular matter, please raise your hand. If you're visiting by Zoom, by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, please press *9. If you're attending in person, please raise your hand before approaching the lectern. Once you're recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for record. You are not required to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be posted on the township's YouTube channel and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There could be no cross dialogue during this public portion. And after everyone wishing to speak has been heard, the council or administration may address your comments and or questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anybody in the audience want to chime in on the sidewalk? Anybody at home? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. Is there any council discussion? My only item is thank you once again to our administration for aggressively pursuing the CDBG applications. This does help us pay for a part of a large project, and we'll underwrite that. So thank you for your forethought in designing that. And I'm happy, obviously, to receive this. Right, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor EA will be numbered resolution 241 and passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. O'Sullivan, you're still up.
Yes,
These
thank
are-
you.
Deputy Manager's
I know we do have 2 presentations, so I will try to move through my report quickly. The pool improvement project that was awarded at the last meeting, we are currently scheduling a pre-construction meeting, so we do not have a specific construction schedule yet. Similarly, for the primary clarifier pumping station project, we are coordinating with the NJI Bank. So we will schedule that pre-construction meeting as well in the coming weeks once we have the final approvals from the iBank. We are still underway with a number of other wastewater projects. We are also actively addressing an emergency repair on the collection system, which runs parallel to Derwent Avenue. That is currently underway. Lynn Drive well is still under construction. The contractor's working through the final components of that project, which includes pressure testing, chlorination, well flushing, backwashing, and training of all the new equipment with Verona staff. That project remains on schedule, and Fairview Avenue is still pending the Green Acres and DEP approvals. Clary Drive Pump Station is out to bid, with bids to be received on January 22nd. Jumping ahead on my report, the Everett Field design project, which we just talked about, we are expecting to receive the 70% design drawings by the end of the month. We will look to schedule a final public presentation with the council in January or February, depending upon the amount of other items on the agendas during those meetings. Pickleball and tennis courts, we've scheduled a pre-construction meeting for Wednesday of this week. We'll get a construction schedule at that meeting or shortly thereafter. We did receive our final energy audit for the wastewater plant. That was the last report we were awaiting. So we are working with that audit team to schedule a presentation for the mayor and council. Lakeside Avenue parking lot is still under design. We will be hopefully closing on that property within the month or next month. And we will have the design plan ready for bidding this winter. For the town hall windows and repointing project, we've also scheduled that pre-construction meeting for Thursday of this week. That work will begin through the winter, but we'll get a more formal construction schedule from the contractor on Thursday. And then one of the items that was on the agenda, which we have deferred, it will be scheduled for the January 6th mayor and council meeting, is the presentation of the emergency services building. We will look to have a final presentation circulated to the mayor and council prior to that and ready for the public on that January 6th meeting. I'll end my report on that unless there's any questions.
Councilman McLeod?
Thank you. So that's January 6th. It's not gonna be the 20th, gonna be the 6th.
Correct.
Okay.
We were coordinating with the architect on his availability and January 6th is
Okay, great. Just going back to the wells, this holdup with the Green Acres property is now really stretching. Is the administration thinking through a plan on how to
So we've
get that approval?
So we've been in touch on almost on a weekly basis with Green Acres. Again, the difficulty remains that there was an exception process that was provided to municipalities or public water systems that have wells and need PFAS treatment. But if those wells are situated on open space properties, there was this exception process that was introduced. The process for how those applications are handled was not as thoroughly fleshed out on that planning from the state, but we have been working. Verona was first at the table for that. Green Acres has completed their review and recommendation to have this approved. Their most recent recommendation to us was to start advancing calls and more discussions with the commissioner to see if there is a more specific time frame, understanding that the township's desire is to get clean, healthy public water to the public.
Advance with the DEP commissioner?
Yes.
Okay.
That was our.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Sullivan? Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. We appreciate the highlights.
Thank you.
And what is next? We have our solar presentation first. We're doing new gen first. All right, Mr. Jordan. If you just introduce yourself to the public and.
Yes, name is Walter Jordan, Vice President with DGen Energy Partners. Joined here today with two of my colleagues, Austin Williams, and then Adam from Mantis, who is our strategic partner in this project here as well. So thank y'all for allowing us to come back and visit with y'all again and follow up on the previous conversation that we had. Through those discussions, y'all provided great feedback in narrowing down this project and dialing in on the information that y'all are looking for. Worked pretty heavily with staff and trying to really narrow down those last few details that we needed to get. So got a few things here for y'all to look at today as we consider to push this project along. And I know we are short on time. We've got a busy agenda tonight, so shouldn't take up a whole lot of your time here. So we'll get right into it. This is the first one. So this is the lakeside lot that there was a lot of question about with the array being as big as it was, covering it corner to corner in the parking lot. So we went back and drilled down on that a little bit, split it up into 3 separate canopies here. Wanted to be able to give you a pretty good idea from a size perspective. We put some school buses underneath them on this so you can see that. From that perspective, and came back off the lot lines on each side of the property as well. So as previous in my last presentation, again, y'all have questions, y'all have feedback, knock me off my axis. More than happy to engage. So that's the design that we came up with that we think would be ideal based on the criteria that you guys put forth. Any questions surrounding the lakeside lot at all? There was a lot of questions with that particular property last time.
Just general question, do you require any kind of equipment enclosures, ground mounted, anything like that, or is this all integrated into the canopies? You have to, plan a.
It's all integrated into the canopies.
Okay.
Yeah.
How high will these panels be?
Panels?
Yeah, so how high up?
So they're on a slant, so they'll be from, we can really kind of make them as high as you want to, but reality is, usually they're slanted from 9 to 14 feet.
Yeah, I mean, we say as high as we want to, I would try to be as low as we want to. Yeah, this is in near residential neighborhoods, so just trying to keep that character.
The biggest challenge that you guys are faced with, that we've got to be, aware of is snowplow. Is probably your biggest concern there, so. But yeah, the 9 to 14 feet is pretty standard, so. All right. So this is municipal lot 1. Not a lot of change on this particular, property. We feel like we've got this one dialed in for what the need is here. Municipal lot 2. And if you see in some of these slides where you've got the blue squares, those are the actual panels and the software that we use to lay this out, and then we come back and put it into a 3D image.
I have a quick
Yeah, of course.
question on this one. So the property line with the White House, which is a veterinarian center. So it looks like it's really close. There's no setback on that one at all? I
On
mean,
this, on
yeah.
municipal lot 2 here.
yeah,
There's a driveway. There's a driveway.
yeah, there's a driveway there.
Yeah, that and the building.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but still, it's right, the panel on its is right up on our property line, or it'll be close to it?
Yes, it will.
Okay, on this one.
Right, so it's not like you're seeing panels on a flat roof that are sticking up. It'll look like it's part of the structure. It's not the viewing, the veneer of
Look at fire truck access through here, turning radius, et cetera. Obviously, we're putting structures up that don't exist now. If someone needs to fight a car fire in one of these lots or a building fire, we might have to, run the apparatus radius on this.
Mhm.
Yeah, the fire official should, and the fire chief should chime in.
And that would go back, I would think, to height.
Yeah.
We could raise it. In certain areas, especially this one here, because it coming into the driveway of the ladder truck, because obviously we have commercial right on the looking and going in the parking lot to the right side on Bluefield Avenue. And we just had a fire in one of those buildings recently, so it's a very good concern.
Yeah, those nitty gritty details are things that we get into in a due diligence process, for sure. All right, next one is the wastewater treatment plant. So the big highlight on this one was what were we going to do with the old panels and the condition of those panels. We have secured a source to completely recycle them, so they'll be reused. And then we've added in the new panels and the new roof over the building on the right, and on the using the coating system on the building on the left, and then adding the panels as well. Any questions here? All right. Which one is this? This is the community center, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So not a lot of changes here. We've got the parking lot with the canopies on it. We've got the rooftop. There is a change to this that has happened since like literally this week. So we had spec'd this roof to go back with GAF's Cool Series shingles. However, Cool Series has been discontinued as of this week. And so we would have to change it to the Reflector Series, which is a specific shingle that you've got to use in order to capture the direct payback for the roof piece being tied into it as well. Comes out of California. We've already secured sourcing and the ability to bring that product in. And from a look standpoint, it's going to look just like the shingle that we had spec before, and the one that that's up here on the screen. So it in order for it to work, it's got to be part of the Cool Roof Ratings Council. It's also got to be Title 24. UV reflection rate has to be high. So it checks all of those boxes, and it's comparable. It's still got the HDZ technology in it, wind speeds, unlimited wind warranty, etc. So it's like ordering a Coke and they don't have Coke and you get Pepsi instead. So it works. All right.
quick question on this one.
Yeah, of course.
Is there a reason, I don't know if I've asked this before, is there a reason why we did not utilize the annex building in the background of this top left picture?
Yeah, there is a reason. You've got a 100-foot tall cell tower there.
The one in the way in the back.
Correct, yes. That cell tower in the afternoons puts shade on that particular building. We can add panels there if we wanted to, but it's almost counterproductive.
Got it, okay.
That building's sleeping.
The building, not the tower.
All right. So the property that we had talked about previously that y'all brought to the attention is the pool. Gets a couple months use out of the year. Pretty good site. We've got canopy set up here on this one and added into our cash flows. We did not feel there was enough bang for the buck to do anything with the roof on this one, so we went straight to the canopy option here instead. So this one is new from the last time before we visited last time.
On any of these projects, well, how many spots are you giving up per project to install these? Not many, 10%?
Maybe one.
Okay.
Maybe one. I mean, it's no different than lighting a parking lot and putting, light poles in a parking lot. So you should have the same parking that you had before. You have the ability to add NEV charging as well. So. All right.
So one question, now that you've gone through all of looking at all the lots, have you run into any problems with, because obviously they're all angled with snow rolling off of them? Because I'm looking at even the one in the center of town, it's not angled away from it's angled into the center of the property, or the center of the driveway rather. Have you ever had any issues with snow sliding off of them?
So the snow is going to slide off of it in some way, shape, or form. So let's talk about the snow for a second. There's a couple different ways that it works. So you get a light dusting, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about solar is the transfer of electricity. There's going to be heat there. It's going to be above freezing. It's going to have some melting components too, right? Now, when you guys get snow that's ear hole deep to a tall giraffe, that's not going to do us any good at all. So, long story short is, yes, there's going to be some snow that's going to accumulate underneath the canopies, which I think is probably a pretty good reason why you got good snowplow people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Just more on that. So I think the council, I don't want to speak for you, but if snow piles up on top though, I think the question is like, if we get a lot of snow that piles on top and then that melting process, it could slide off and kind of hurt somebody. It could slide off at unexpected times, like almost like how snow's on an SUV roof.
Sure.
And then like if you're driving, like it just flies off. So if there's a lot of snow on these units, I understand they run hotter. But like, is there something we should be doing to remove the snow proactively, or we just let it melt? And then the question is it then sliding off?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So a couple different things on the glass itself. It's got a slit component to it, almost like wax to a car, right? So we do that to help get, bird feces or leaves or whatever else can accumulate onto the panels, right? So the panels are gonna have a slick nature to them where the snow can fall off, right? Now, if we wanted to explore into a deeper version, we do have the ability, that we have a product that's basically like a sprinkler system, works like a it's got a de-icer in it, like you use on a plane. We're using those in Minnesota right now because of snow drifts, where they build up on walls, on roofs, how to collapse, things of that nature. So those are things that can be explored if that is a big concern. That is something that we can absolutely add into the equation if needed.
Follow up on that, do we get any icicle formation around the perimeter of these?
icicle formation around the perimeter?
Like around my house, when I get snow load, I get icicles forming around, you know.
Oh, sure, yes, it's metal, right? The canopies are metal. It's gonna freeze, it's gonna have that drip effect that you're talking about, yes.
Continue, sir.
All right, so what we did is we took, and y'all have it in your packets that we gave you as well for each individual site. That's got a breakdown of each individual location, how much power is going to be produced and the offset from the electricity. But in this slide, we took and we simplified it. We brought it all into one. So we've got everything that's included in here. Also, you brought up last time about the New Jersey. The numbers that we had used were correct. We just had it labeled wrong
Okay,
on the presentation. So,
well, thank you for remembering me.
absolutely. Yes, ma'am. So a couple different things here to add. We've got the O&M, which is the operations and maintenance expenses included into the cost. So that's part of it as well, with the guaranteed production rates that come with it, along with you're seeing about a 25% cut out of your electric usage by going with this program here. So we can always add more, take some away, however y'all want to work it, but these are the numbers for all sites in their totality for how this comes together. Also, we went back, we got the bond rate that was included in there. Your financials are calculated with a 4% bond rate that's included in there as part of the functionality of the cash flows for each individual site as well. Yes, ma'am.
If I may, I just find it particularly interesting that when we consider that we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in our PSE&G bills, that we're only offsetting 25%. Like I think that's the part that gives me the most pause with the amount of solar we'd be putting on these different facilities. So is it just that we is it the aggregated net metering program? Is there another opportunity that we have that we could maybe offset more? It just seems that we'd be installing a lot of solar, and the 25%, I would just love to see a greater benefit than that.
Yeah, so you've got a couple factors there that weigh in on that. We've looked at a lot of different locations for putting this project together. So one of the challenges is you're landlocked pretty well here.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have the space that we would need to build giant solar array fields to, take down 10, 12 megawatts of worth of power. So that's the first part. The second part is some of these buildings are rather old. There's some challenges that are faced there from a structural component by adding to the weight with the solar, also with the shading and where we can put the solar. So, and then to your point, I say this a lot, sometimes bigger is not better. When you talk about solar and you're trying to find the ROI and you're trying to find the sweet spot. And so in this circumstance and how we've calculated this project, I personally, from my perspective, it's really kind of at the sweet spot where you don't have so much of it that you're driving your ROI into 25 and 30 years, and there's not so little of it that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, can you just explain this graphic with the yellow line and the
Yeah.
and the shading, like, so
course.
what's happening in the beginning, the middle, and then over the length?
Yeah, so what it's calculating for here, with the, probably you're particularly asking about the black and gray color and
Yeah.
shading, correct? Yeah, so that's the account for the bond package, the 15-year bond package that's in there.
To pay for it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And then the yellow represents the solar production itself.
And so at one point, this in around year, what, 6, it kind of crosses over. Can you explain the different parts of the graph?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. One, there's some limitations with our software based on how the functionality of your bond package, right?
Okay.
So we've got some challenges that are there from that perspective. Number 2 is, so that's part of it. And then number 2 on that front, to answer your question here, when we talk about year 6, that's kind of the pivotal point. So there's a couple different pieces of the puzzle that play in there. One of them is I'm gonna say this right, I don't wanna mess this up, hold on here. So we have to, we talk about the degradation to the panels, okay? So that's part of it, and it's usually somewhere between year 5 and year 6 that they really level off. The degradation basically, I won't say it stops, but the majority of your degradation starts in the first 5 years. Starts and ends in the first 5 years. So we have to account for that as well.
Okay. So you're making the most electricity in the beginning, then it kind of fades off a little bit.
Yeah, and we see degradation less than traditionally in all of our case studies, less than 5% over the lifetime. We've got panels we've installed in the 90s that are
Okay,
3 and 4% degradation total 30 years ago.
so this doesn't mean that, what is the lifespan, like, is it 15 year, well, the loan term is 15 years.
Correct. So the lifespan of the panels is 30 years.
Okay.
Well, let me back up. We don't know the answer to that question.
Okay,
We think they're gonna go 70 or 80 years. But we don't have the data to support that, is you know how it goes. But the panels have a 30-year warranty on them, and then a 12-year labor warranty that comes with it as well.
okay, thank you.
And there's also some which will be covered by the O&M. Inverters wear out, like I said, the tires do on a car. So the inverter is the transfer of the DC to AC power, making it a usable power, and they wear out after somewhere between 10 and 15 years. So.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
The bottom right graph here, are those basically by months? I'm looking at the solar production, so why it's peaking in the middle, is that January through December as 1 through 12 there? Or,
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, that's not yearly, right?
And then obviously we're gonna make more power in the summers because we got longer days.
So explain, just again, going into the left side graph there, where the bonded rate dips negative, is that the proceeds of the bond coming to the township and then the repayment beginning after? I'm trying to understand what exactly that, the avoided utility cost is the cumulative production of the solar panels and the energy that we otherwise would have had to pay for, I'm assuming. But what actually is the shading area referring to our payments back into the bond, or?
Before you answer, just introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Austin Williams. I'm here on behalf of DGen as well. I put together a lot of this financing. So the reason it dips is the initial incentive. So you get a substantial portion back as tax benefits traditionally, but the municipality gets it as a direct pay check. So that will dip you into the negative. You're essentially way ahead.
So that's reducing the principal of the bond of the debt.
Well,
Or is
the
it-
limitation you talk to, you could reduce the principal and that would, fundamentally look a little bit different, but correct, that lowers your ROI and then it goes back above 0 as we pay off the interest on the loan and we pay off the principal on the loan. So that initial dip is essentially 30% of the project cost coming back in year 1.
Okay.
And then it's the savings as well throughout the term, and sorry, I said 30, you meant 40. And then the savings over the term is also what's gonna drive that below 0 where you're saving money on the energy. The payment of the principal and the interest on the loan is what brings us back above. And you can see more clearly on this is just a representation of the last page with the cash flow chart. So you can see the cumulative cash flow where it actually dips into the red as opposed to the year cash flow, and the different incentives are driving it down, and then the interest and principal on the bond are driving it back up. So you can see where the break-even point actually is on that cash flow, where it's broken down by each column.
Does anybody else see a cash flow chart?
Oh, sorry, that's in the packet. The detailed cash flow chart is in the packet provided.
We're looking at what we got sent. Is there another packet?
Yeah, we only have a 11-page.
We have this.
I
We
have the
don't have it.
presentation.
Yeah, we have the presentation. I don't have
The
it.
two attachments there?
Yeah. So
Basically, there's a lot of detail going into those slides, and so we provided a larger explanation. So we're looking at this, that's the.
have it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just roll this slide here, see the headers.
Yeah, see it better. Yep. Improvise, right?
There we go. So. Yeah, the big dip down is the direct pay incentive that comes with going solar. So that's the main incentive. And then your electric bill savings are the black numbers here. Then your costs, operation and maintenance, which we just. So what essentially drive it down, the payments on interest and the bonded loan.
So in the summary forecast that we have here that I'm looking at, where you show total payments 10.6 million, total incentives 6.7 million, net payments 3.9 million, electric bill savings 7.9 million. So we've got, and this is over a 15-year term, so we've got net 3.9 million of cash going out, and we save 7.9 million in electric. So over 15 years, our cash flow should be $4 million positive.
Correct.
Over that term.
Yep.
And then after the 15 years, obviously we don't have, we don't have any more payments on this. We have O&M.
Right.
You're saying the lifespan of the panel should be longer than that 15 years.
Correct. The warranted life is 30.
30.
Yep.
Okay. And we should still get the electric bill savings at that point in time. So
Yeah.
we'll
So-
see.
Sorry.
So we'll see basically better cash flow year 15 plus.
Yes, it will be pure savings. And also, just one note on the warranted life of the panels. The warranty is that they'll be operating at 80% capacity at the end of 30 years. So they still have plenty of capacity and still be producing power with proper maintenance.
Does the warranty only cover the panel itself? Does it cover the replacement labor? Does it cover the inverters?
So labor warranty is 12 years.
Okay.
And then what's the inverter warranty? Yeah, it's 15 years on the inverter warranty as well.
Okay, so at that point in time, basically it's on, we're done with the payments, but it's on us if.
Does the O&M pick up?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there is anticipated costs in the O&M in year 15. Likely won't happen like that. If it happens before, it's under warranty. If it happens after, it will happen gradually. So those costs are included.
Okay, so we'll basically assume that, some panels here and there, some inverters here and there will
Correct.
need to be changed out.
Yep. And so referring back to that chart, the black line then shows your payments and your savings. And then the green line is your avoided costs from the utility purchases. So
And did you assume constant electric rates or did you assume?
no, that's increasing over time. If 5%.
This one is at 0, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That might be.
No, we did use it. Yeah, we did a 5% increase.
Okay,
How frequently is the 5% increase?
It's annual, so I know that's not how it typically happens, but we'll go 3 or 4 years with no adjustment and maybe a 20% or something like that increase. So happy to show whatever makes sense for you guys to see. That's kind of the EIA.gov for the region estimate. But yes, it's annual.
So listening to everything you're saying and seeing we're getting the incentives up front. And looking at the chart, you're saying we are basically no cash outlay until year 7, roundabout? Going by this chart where those lines intersect?
Correct. I mean, it totally comes down to how you money. And so we could take the incentive and pay down your principal. I think there's a lot of ways to deal with that that's not reflected in this chart, but yes, essentially what we're showing is that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
it would be almost feel like anything that my biggest concern is using our own bonding capacity in this
Mhm.
large of an expenditure. So the only way, to consider going into this would be if any incentive went on principal reduction.
Absolutely. With what we got.
Yeah.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes,
we'll be applying to the CIA. So it won't be on your bonding capacity, it'll be on the county.
well, that is certainly helpful. Okay, thank you very much.
Ron, good, thank you.
Thank you again.
Yeah, my question is, where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to have a discussion. I don't know, if maybe tonight is the right night to have a discussion. We just got that second document, so.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll schedule for new business on January 6th.
Has the finance department had an opportunity to review?
We've had pre-meetings with CFO and firm going over all the financing.
That's bond council. But then,
Bond council is involved in that also, but we'll be going to the CIA if the council approves the project. So it won't be on your bonding capacity, it'll be tied to the county.
put on the agenda for January 6th. Yes.
I'm curious why, well, like, what kind of projects can we bring to them for bonding and why this one?
I've been bringing, because of your bonding capacity, I've been bringing your general projects, some of these larger ones, to the county, to the ECIA program. And the iBank is all the infrastructure projects, which wouldn't go to the ECIA. But this one would be eligible for their consideration.
Okay. And I think for me, I think the safety piece of this about emergency vehicle access is actually a really key point. So before we discuss, it would be nice to know for each one, especially the parking lot ones, if we do, our safety concerns gonna disqualify some of these locations, in particular by, middle school. We want to make sure that our first responders are comfortable.
Typically, the planning board, anytime we have an application, we get a exhibit, there's a piece of software that they model our fire apparatus, and they show the actual turning paths within it as to make sure it can access every part of the building. I think that actually would need to be run with these obstructions in there for each of these sites.
Yeah.
We did snowplow dump trucks were modeled through there, but we'll have details done by fire also.
And rescue.
All right, I think overall, when we talk about those parking lots, it's really gonna depend on. As I'm looking at parking lot number one, the way they're angled, because obviously if they're angled towards the center. And the truck's coming closer to the school, that's the higher side because of they're facing south that way. So I think that is also obviously working with these gentlemen. They can tell us which side is gonna be 15 feet. And which side is gonna be 9. I do think we also have to account for higher costs for snow removal. Just for the fact that these will have to be monitored for icicles or there's gonna be times we're gonna have to clear snow off of them. And a process to do that. Hopefully not often, we don't get as much snow as we used to, but that is a safety issue, because I know people that have them. There's a house right behind me, and when that snow comes off of them, it's all at once, and it's pretty dangerous, so it's something we have to consider as far as an extra cost involved with this over the year.
I'm wondering if we could put if we put like
Icebreakers.
heat trace tape around the perimeter of the canopies or something like that.
That would be their question.
Yeah.
It's not the ordinance.
I would go back to, listening to the concern here, I would go back to using the de-icing system that we use. In these parallels, so if that's something that wants to be considered, we can absolutely dive into that and make that part of the equation where it's not an extra cost and an ongoing maintenance issue for the council. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, because my concern is the community center, most of all, because that's a very high building, and that one side that's gonna be on faces the front door. Okay. That's it, thank you.
All right, Mr. O'Sullivan. We now have our full presentation, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Again, my name is Eric Colopia from New Gen Strategies and Solutions. I'm here to do a follow-up presentation to the material we discussed the last meeting I was here about the pool utility study and some of the developments that have occurred since that time. My agenda is brief. Again, I know we're short on time tonight. Just going to do a very high-level review of the key elements of our study. What has happened since we last discussed the pool utility. You sent out a membership survey. We'll discuss some of the key results from that survey relative to the alternatives we were discussing. We have slightly revised cash flow forecast based on the recommended alternative based on the survey, and then some specific membership fee forecasts under that scenario. The key study elements, of course, the pool utility operates as an enterprise fund. Our goal is to have it to be self-liquidating, self-funding, no outside revenues or anything supporting the fund. In the current budget year, the pool utility needed a $200,000 injection of revenue from ARPA funds that are no longer going to be available in future years. Our job, in the most basic sense, was to figure out alternatives to fund the utility through the membership fees and any other alternatives that we can either generate additional revenue or reduce expenses, again, consistent with any policy updates and maintaining appropriate reserves. So last time we were here was on the 21st, and that was after a meeting with the Recreation Advisory Committee to present some initial results. After that discussion, the direction was essentially there were too many unknowns. We need to narrow our focus on some of those unknowns and get some feedback from the membership, and that's what occurred. A membership survey went out that had some specifics about two key issues. Of course, outside resident memberships, how much should they cost, how many would be available, and what the impact would be on the resident membership fees under those scenarios. That survey went out and was closed on December 8th. The Recreation Advisory Committee met on the 10th, saw those results, and provided a recommendation based on those results. The three scenarios that were developed after our initial meeting and that were out in the survey involved two key elements. We discussed a lot about cash flow forecasting. What happens if we sort of rip the Band-Aid? We do a one-time increase to get membership fees to the level they need to be to not use any reserve funds to support the utility beginning in year one. That was our scenario one. We would do so without any out-of-town memberships. Over the 3 years, it would be a slightly over 30% increase. It would happen in the first year, and we would continue those rates moving forward. The second scenario, again, did not have any outside memberships, but we would use fund balance over a 2 to 3 year period to phase in that 30% increase in rates, therefore sort of incrementing those rates year by year, using some fund balance to balance the fund, and then being cash flow positive in years 3 to 5. The third scenario, and based on discussions with the advisory committee, we revised our forecast of the number of out-of-town memberships from 50 up to 75, and we reduced that cost from the initial $2,400 that we were discussing at the previous meeting to $1,600 per those outside family memberships. What that did, we still had to use some fund balance over the course of the scenario 3 forecast. It reduced it down to about $90,000, but the inside member family increase was reduced to 11%. And you can see the membership forecast there increasing to about $674 over the 3 year period. So those were the three scenarios that were presented in the membership survey. It's always good to know who you're getting responses from the survey. The survey was very well responded to. These two tables show the number of respondents by their type of membership. Again, these were all existing 2024 pool members. Most of them, of course, the family memberships. Over 80% of your existing family memberships responded to the survey. In total, about 60% of the total membership of all membership types responded to the survey. A very, very well responded to survey. On the bottom, there was a question about how long these people have been members. So of the respondents, just over 60% of them had been members for 4 or more years. So these are longtime members, a vast majority of them family memberships responding to the survey. This slide shows 2 pie charts. The one on the left shows the response of the survey respondents. What is their preferred funding option? Again, given those 3, scenario 1, increase rates immediately, no cash used. Scenario 2, use cash, no outside memberships. Scenario 3, include outside memberships and reduce the need to increase inside rates. You can see here, the least preferred by far was to increase rates immediately and not allow the outside members. And there's slightly balanced response to the other 2 options, with slightly more favoring the phased in increase without allowing the outside memberships. An interesting response to a question regarding, given these scenarios, if you were to not become a pool member under any of these scenarios, which one would influence that decision? That's the pie chart on the right. A vast majority of respondents for the 58%, that blue slice on the right, that is that one-time large increase. So if you were to increase those rates by 30% in 1 year, a vast majority of the response to this question would say that would make me reconsider my membership for the 2025 year. The second largest response in the gray there is the out-of-town membership option. Keep our rates low, but allow 75 out-of-town memberships at $1,600 a piece. So our key takeaways from this is that option 1 is clearly the least preferred, the one-time increase to maintain cash balance. Options 2 and 3 have similar but not exact same preference. But options 1 and 3 both create a large risk of reducing membership even from its current level under those 2 scenarios. Again, people responding a one-time large increase or including outside memberships would seriously make them reconsider joining the pool. So given those responses, what we did was continue to model that scenario 2. Again, minimizing the risk of increasing rates too fast and disincentivizing membership. So what we included in this cash flow forecast was a 15% increase in members across the board for 2025 and no pilot program to allow outside family memberships. There were several other recommendations that were discussed, none of which are included in our 2025 numbers for various reasons. Mostly it's the uncertainty of the financial impact of some of these and the fact that if you were to adopt some of these policies, it really wouldn't move the needle as much as the membership increase to generate funds.
How do you support the potential of 15% membership? Is that 15% number of members increase?
I'm sorry, membership fee increase.
Fee increase,
Yes. Our model assumes a consistent number of members. I think we included a slight increase in the consistent with our original recommendations.
Okay.
The one item I would like to discuss very briefly because it came as a recommendation from the advisory committee is that first bullet point about the firefighter rescue squad. You'll see in our forecast, we're keeping those at no cost to those members. However, currently embedded in our forecast, the assumption that the other membership fees would generate the revenue to cover those members to maintain cash flow neutrality. Recommendation from the advisory committee is that those memberships will be covered from other town revenues, essentially injecting those revenues into the fund to simultaneously support those firefighter and rescue squad members, but not burden the other members with those costs. It would be absorbed from an outside resource within the town. We didn't include that in our forecast. What that would do was essentially take pressure off of those rate increases in scenario 2, particularly in the outer years. Some of the 5% and 3% in our 3 to 5 year forecast. It would take pressure off of those and reduce those. Would that should that outside revenue come in? I have a couple more slides. The first, you've seen these before. We wanted to show them again under the scenario 2 forecast. The chart on the left shows the stacked bars of the expenses of the pool, given their various assumptions on labor costs and capital projects and everything consistent with our initial recommendation. The 2 lines show the revenues under the no membership fee increase scenario and the scenario 2. You can see that in the first 2 years of that forecast, we're not quite getting to cash flow positive revenue. In years 3 to 5, we are. A couple of key takeaways from this. There are going to be increases needed beyond the initial 3-year forecast. I believe we have 3% increases in years beyond that. We use approximately $140,000 of existing pool utility reserves to sustain the pool over this 3-year period as we phase in these rates. This does protect somewhat against decrease in membership. Again, we're keeping membership flat in this scenario, and you can see in those out years, we are generating positive cash flow. So if there were to be a slight membership decrease in those years, this model is still sustainable. The last slide I have here is the scenario 2 fee forecast. Again, a 15% increase across the board in 2025, 10% in 26, and 3% thereafter. And you can see, again, the firefighter rescue squad membership maintained at 0. But the funding for those memberships is coming from the other membership increases that were shown here to maintain the cash flow of the utility. And that is all I have. I'm happy to take more questions.
Eric, I just with the 50% increase and you're forecasting a net positive in members. I know that based on this model, based on the folks that were surveyed, only 3% of them said that they would potentially drop with this item, or this would be the item I think that would most cause them to drop in that question. So I'm just wondering if it would have been more wise perhaps to forecast maybe a larger decline. I think what's going to happen is as the fees go up under this model, some people who may have held family memberships for longer, as like children who are getting older, might step off maybe a little earlier. There'll be some decisions that are being made as a result of these, increases coming up. And I'm just a little nervous that when we forecast that green line, which is, the revenue over the expense, that we may not exactly be in building a fund balance there, right?
Certainly.
As a result. So I'm cautious about these numbers and taking them as a best guess. But there may be a couple parts of this that the public should be aware of that may not give us where we are. And I don't want people to assume that we're passing an ordinance for the next 3 years, right? Because we're gonna have to reevaluate this based on the membership fluctuations. And right now it's forecast to be 15% this year and then 10% the next year. But it could be 50% this year and 15% next year. And people were opposed to a 32% increase in 1 year, which I would understand. I wouldn't want to do it either. But that's basically 2 15% increases will compound to be a 32% increase. And you're just holding off 1 year or another. And I sort of wonder if that might change people's decision making as everything else is more expensive, of course. So I just want to throw out there for the public edification that the out year numbers are not in stone. We're not agreeing to those at this point. The only rate we could set right now, well, when we put an ordinance will be the rate, and it'll be the rate until we set a new rate. But to be fair, we may have to recalibrate. On the other piece, I appreciate your analysis and I like your presentations. I wanted to thank the rec committee members for their work in this. I know that our committee chair, Corey Shore, is in the room, and there are several members either coming on Zoom or in person and so on. But they were working very closely with Township administration. I know you worked with them as well. And this is what our boards and committees should be doing. And this is a very good example of getting a decent recommendation, having our boards and committees doing a lot of the front work and then providing us recommendations, which is what we have these groups for. So I really thank you all for your work on that, especially, and especially as we move forward on a recommendation. So those are just my comments, and I appreciate you recalibrating. My last comment is that final option with the out-of-town members. I think, there were many people, that were opposed to that. There were some people who were clearly not opposed to it. But at the same time, I think charging $1,600 for our pool, we were gonna get 0 out of 10 members. So that's the other piece of it is, and I made this, I brought this point up before, once again, for transparency for the public. I'm not convinced that we would have gotten any members from that at $1,600, and if we were really aggressive toward trying to reduce rates by adding out of town members, that the rate would be lower. So I really need to consider that an option. Anyway, just at that number, it's something we have to think about because our pool is lovely. I'm not sure $1,600 lovely for people that have other options. So including private swim clubs and country clubs and things like that, who would be able to pay $1,600 for something. So just some things out there, and I do appreciate recommendations. Councilman Roman?
So when I look at this, the numbers that are modeled obviously make sense, but there's always the question of what are the risks? What if we're wrong? The issue that you run into is that if you are wrong and we do cross that point where we start, where the pricing starts to cause a downturn in memberships, that's where you end up with that sort of downward spiral, because now you have to increase membership rates more to bring that up, or you have to subsidize the pool otherwise, or you have to cut costs. The other way around this, I feel like this needs to pair with a pretty strong effort at driving memberships up, driving revenue up. I think that's sort of the insurance policy here is, okay, how do we generate more new memberships, which is through, a lot of marketing, especially as we have a lot of new families moving into the town. We do need to make sure that people are aware that we have this asset available. And then non-membership revenue, whether it be parties, whether it be sponsorships, et cetera. I feel like we have to do both at the same time, really. We can't just raise the membership rates and not simultaneously be doing non-membership revenue enhancement. That we can't wait a year on that. So that'd be kind of my thought process on this, is that has to start early.
I agree 100%. I think part of it is in the past, we've dealt with our rates later. Right. And having these on now will certainly get an idea. And ideally, I would like to see registration start sooner as well this year, right? So we can get an idea of numbers and be a little bit more aggressive. Our public information officer can get information out there as well. But I'd like to see things like pamphlets and pictures and what does our pool look like, and getting things out there, because I agree that we do need to sell it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if we started in the spring of basically doing a marketing campaign of some sort or another, just for, even to see if it comes at one time, I'd love to see the actual membership numbers go up. And I think that would be the kind of the best success and give us our best chance.
Yeah, as people are making decisions on what they're doing this summer, which they're already starting to do.
Right.
We'll be able to get that out there. Any other questions for Eric? Well, thank you, sir. You're the lucky one tonight.
Thank you very much.
Sure,
Appreciate the time.
Mr. O'Sullivan, anything else?
No, that concludes our report.
Mr. Shore, since we were talking about the pool in your committee, is there anything that you wanted to add? You're under no obligation. Sure. Sorry, I kind of put you on the spot. That's why you're under no obligation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, administration. The rec committee has been working very, very hard on this topic. Probably not just the last couple of months, probably about a year and a half, where we knew that there was some financial stress on the pool. I think it's important for the council to consider some type of leeway to where the firefighter and the rescue squad memberships be funded within the budget or sponsorship, as I've done the numbers left and right, and that would seriously help the health of the community pool. Membership, I think, did increase this year. We have under one of the scenarios, I put current membership is 828. That's family members. If you got it up to 1,000, not sure, but that's something we discussed with the administration, and I hope the administration looks at that parking piece again and says that we can get more volume there, because that's what's going to help us or help the community pool going forward. Someone said it, one of our committee members said it very nicely. that the community pool is about numbers. With the splash pad, with all the new attractions that we have there, the cost of maintenance, numbers is the bottom line. And we have to be able to get that up. If we're able to do that with multiple fronts, which would be membership increase, better marketing, sponsorship events. This year, hopefully, you try to get within 30,000, 20,000 of maybe some debt, and then the fund can cover that. But then going forward, if you're not able to do that, and also educating the membership about what our financial situation is. We sent out a letter with the survey beforehand, but I feel it wasn't enough. We have to be very honest with our membership about it's not paid for by the taxes, it's by the membership, and these are the financial stresses that have to be assumed in the next couple of years. So if we're able to do that and educate our public market, then next year, if we're still in problem area, then you look at the non-residential option. I put on one scenarios, I put at $8.99, trying to look at the marketplace. Then maybe next year you look at it, but making sure that the membership knows exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, and then this might be potential for next year because we have such a really great pool and we're investing in our pool so that we have more and more members coming in. So I'd just like to thank council members that have been working with me, also with the subcommittee has done a great job, and I thank the two ladies that are working with me, and the committee in itself who's done a great job, and administration for working with me and answering questions as fast as possible. But we still have some work to do, and I wish you guys luck and hope we come to a decision very quickly, because the sooner we have those rates, we have a plan, then everybody can get started. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Yes, Councilwoman McGrath.
I have a follow-up question for the administration. So we also asked, besides, and thank you so much to our partners at New Gen, it's really great work. We did ask some questions. There's been a lot of, ideas floating out there, but also we asked about how to reduce labor costs or some of the costs associated with the pool. Has that been worked on? And in addition to what we got today, in addition to the rec committees, because I think it was both the mayor and myself asked about really looking at the staffing model, and we don't have that piece. And also with all of these recommendations, can we see a draft plan on what the administration is committing to before we commit to any rate increases?
That's a fair request.
Yes,
Thank you.
we could do that.
Okay.
But one of my things since I joined the council is looking at the actual operation. So, about that, Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Shore, thank you very much, and the rest of the rec committee. I know this is one piece of the puzzle that you guys deal with many other things in town, but thank you for your time. And you touched on something I didn't think of before, but we've asked in the past, I know we have firefighters and rescue squad members that sign up. And I know obviously for many years now, we've been doing the swipes. Can we get numbers on exactly how many people actually use their membership compared to how many people sign up and accept the membership?
Yeah, we do that.
You got, because I know we
Yeah.
swipe to go in, so
Yeah.
if that could be provided, that would be very helpful.
If I may.
That's
We,
right.
in conjunction with getting all those numbers together, we also gained information on the training that the volunteer fire department is doing for all the employees at the pool, which needs to be taken into consideration. And I haven't dug into what the rescue squad may be doing at the pool and training the staff that's at the pool. They're relatively young. That we've had those discussions as recent as today to get that information. So we need to get you a companion report on the services training that we would have to pay outside companies to do that our fire and rescue are doing on the staff. Also, minimum wage keeps going up. I know that getting an analysis on the employees that are at the pool, but minimum wage keeps going up. We don't have the choice about that. the minimum staffing of lifeguards is a requirement. We can't drop the number of lifeguards based on the size of your pool and the anticipated volume of people that may be there at the pool. The difficulty I think that pool management is running into is the state, you can't cut staff by the day. But he is looking at, so we have a rainy day and the pool's is gonna be closed and he's addressing staff that way. But you're really stuck with the minimum personnel that you need at the pool, which is a problem.
I think the point from the councilman is we want to know what that
Yeah,
is.
we'll
You know, we want to write what is the minimum staffing from the lifeguards are one piece, but there are many office staff.
Yeah.
There are non-DPW maintenance staff that are there. So, you know, that's another piece of this, that there may be some places to consider economies as well. And, you know, it would be helpful to see what a lifeguard rotation looks like. You know, other times that we just simply, you know, that we can fill doing something else, or could people take a job, you know, one of the other responsibilities that we have people do in an off time or whatever it is. Councilman Holland?
Thank you. I want to thank New Gen for your work on this and for incorporating some of the recommendations from the Recreation Advisory Committee, in particular, some of the ones that you referenced on your final slide with regard to the marketing plan and others. So while I am mindful that we did receive the documentation regarding the volunteer fire and rescue membership rate, there was a robust discussion, as Mr. Shore referenced, at the Recreation Advisory Committee about the different things that need to be done to really drive membership. So one of the things that I've said at prior meetings, either regarding the pool utility or other utilities that we have in this town, is that you can't just increase rates because, you know, of infrastructure investments, you also have to ensure that quality of service. So we really need to make sure that we are delivering that quality of service. So if rates are going up, people need to really understand and see the value of that. And that's where that marketing plan, that's where the activities at the pool, the amenities at the pool, the cleanliness of the pool, the other aspects of the pool, and how this is a tremendous asset and where summer memories are made for your families, is really made clear to the residents of this community so that they can really appreciate that and feel that they are investing in something that's very worthwhile. That also makes it incumbent on this administration to be delivering on those promises, right? So delivering on the cleanliness of the bathrooms and really providing that quality of service so that, you know, our programs are run timely, so that, you know, parties are done appropriately and the like. And that marketing piece is really integral, as well as the sponsorship. And I just want to acknowledge that there's been a tremendous amount of work from the Recreation Committee this year. Last year, there was a subcommittee as well, and some of those recommendations were there at that time too, and they weren't adopted. So I think it's really incumbent on the administration to like consider those. And to Councilwoman McGrath's point, like we really need to see a comprehensive package. So if we are coming back to a subsequent council meeting to vote on rates, I would want to see that comprehensive package that's including the marketing plan, that's including the other aspects of how we're going to really make this worthwhile for the members, and also getting input on whether or not there is going to be a budget line item for those pool fees, because I know that we do have budgets, and I know that we have budget season coming up. We're not there yet, but it would be very helpful for us to understand whether or not that budget line item is going to be there. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to council member reports. Deputy Mayor, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If possible, I will echo the comments about Fair and Square. Thank you to all our vendors who braved the cold weather. It was very, very well attended. A big thank you to I think it's every department in Verona, buildings and grounds, DPW, even our rescue squad, police, our public information officer setting everything up. Our clerk, great idea, bringing the football teams in and giving them awards at that. It's a great public event. And obviously fire department, whoever has the connection with Santa is doing a great job getting them in town twice in 1 week this time of year. So hats off to all of them. And it was really, really a very, I think, one of our best ever. So after 27 years, it's going very, very strong. I will briefly touch on a public safety meeting I attended with our Senator Corrado and Assembly people DePhillips and Barlis. The mayor couldn't attend and asked me to show up. I went with our police chief. It's all on, it focused mainly on safety of electric vehicles, scooters and bikes and whatnot. Really focused on the speed of some of these bicycles, how people are adjusting them to go. One of the police chiefs said they clock someone at 62 miles per hour on a bike, which is pretty dangerous. It was focusing also on using them on sidewalks. And the police chief and I spoke on the way home. And he does think that it's already covered in some of our ordinances around town, and we can look further into that. But there was one town that actually said they were confiscating already. And I know that gets into other issues on where do you store them, if they've been adjusted. Obviously, we know there's problems with some fires with all them, so I will address this and talk further on it. But it was a very interesting and well-attended, but there was a very small room, so it couldn't have more people involved. I also did attend the Verona Environmental Commission's Junior Commission members presentation. Congratulations to both Nia and CC. They did a very, very good job. CC did water quality in Verona Lake, and Nia did invasive versus native species. And it was just very, very informative. And I think everybody in the room, even other commissioner members, did learn something from it. So congratulations to both those women. That's pretty much, I want to congratulate, we'll be having a new fire chief, Nick Policino, come January 1, but I more so want to recognize Chief Tedesco for his service as chief over the last couple of years. He's been very busy. Verona's had quite a few emergency calls and fires, so our emergency services all around do a great job, but hats off to the fire department for their work over the last couple of years and over the past. So happy New Year to everybody and have a happy holiday to everyone. That's all I have.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Roman?
Thank you. I will reiterate the comments were made about Fair and Square. A lot of people were commenting on how heavily it was attended, especially given the very cold weather. So that was a great sign of what an event it was. Thank you to everyone that participated, all of our township departments that were involved in putting this together, all of our vendors, the music programs that performed for us, and all the other performers were wonderful as always. I just thought it was a great event, and again, thank you to the fire department as well for making sure that Santa made a appearance. It was just a great event. Very glad to be there. And then since it is our last meeting of the year, just thank you to all of my fellow council members, the professionals that we work with, all of the dedicated staff of Verona Township, and all of our volunteers. Just amazing things happen in this community every year, and it's just a privilege to be a part of it and to live here. So thank you to everyone for their work throughout the year. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the holiday season, get some time off with friends and family. And remember that we never close here at Verona, so there's going to be people that are working on all the holidays, and our appreciation to them for doing that. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you. I echo my colleagues' comments about Fair and the Square. In addition to thanking all the individuals and departments involved, I want to thank the Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee for helping with the Sensitive Santa event, which is a new tradition that has been added for the last few years, where children who really can't or parents who don't want to handle the overstimulation of the outside activities can have their children interact with Santa in a calm environment. And it's really a very touching event to see, because for a lot of these children, they really just can't be in environments with a lot of people. And it gives them some one-on-one time with the big guys. So thank you to the Multicultural Committee for helping with that event. Also, congratulations to the Friends of the Verona Public Library on their very successful book sale. I also attended another heartwarming event called Allie's Elves, held and organized by a young woman named Alana Drost. It was at the community center. Literally over 100 individuals come to make cards that are delivered by Ally and her elves to local nursing homes and veteran centers. It's really a lot of fun to make these cards, and it's a great inclusive environment. I also attended Congresswoman LaMonica McIver's virtual listening session that she had for Verona residents. She held a series of sessions over the last 2 weeks. I spoke with her staff afterward. They were really a success, and they're learning a lot from them. They are building an email list, so you can go to the Congresswoman's website to sign up for that. And then finally, I was able to attend with the Verona Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee, a casual meet and greet event in Montclair with traffic and safety and bike advocates. It was really a lot of fun. It was sponsored by Bike and Walk Montclair. It included members of the Montclair Vision Zero Task Force, the West Orange Vision Zero, Girls in Gear, which is a group promoting biking amongst young women, and they do have classes out of Verona, the Montclair Bike Bus and others. It overlapped, unfortunately, with the Verona Environmental Commission presentation, which is why I was not there. But it was a great event, and it was some great networking and to meet people from other communities. And I met 2 new members of the Montclair Town Council, which was great because I had not yet met them. And I just too want to end with happy holidays to everyone who celebrates. I'm really looking forward to our menorah lighting, which is going to be on the 26th. But I just want to thank everyone for having a great year, and I hope you have a healthy and happy holidays with your family and New Year celebration. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hall.
Thank you. I too was in attendance up there in the square. I just want to congratulate so many that were involved in putting on that event. It was very, very successful. I only heard good reports from vendors and participants. And I would just also, on a personal note, congratulate the HBW Chamber Group because it was incredibly cold, but they played very, very well. I also attended the Ally's Elves event with my family, and if you haven't attended that event, it's incredibly heartwarming and very therapeutic to be spending some time on a Saturday afternoon crafting when otherwise you might get caught up in the hustle and bustle of the holiday season. So it was really nice to be doing that community service and to listen to Ally's announcements and really see all the different community members there to support that endeavor. I, as I mentioned earlier, participated in the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting on December 10th. So I believe I've already given an update on some of the discussion there, but there's obviously a lot of work being done. And we will be having more meetings and I will provide further reports as appropriate. I attended the junior commissioner presentation as well, and I'm very, very impressed with Mia and Cece. And I just think personally, it is so impressive to see young women being so articulate and so confident at such a young age and capable of making such presentations. So I complimented both of them. I expect they will go very far in life. So it was really wonderful to see that. I do want to compliment the Women's Club. I know that it was a bit of a change this year for Share Your Light Night, but it was celebrated on December 14th. So I appreciate their ability to pivot when we have this drought, although perhaps with the recent rain, it doesn't feel like we're still in a drought, but we are. And I know that that was a big shift for them and it required a lot of work. So I was just really grateful for them continuing that tradition this year. Speaking of light, I do want to just remind residents, as I often do during the winter time, of the winter termination program. Obviously, it's not a particularly cold night this evening, but as the temperatures drop, it's important for residents to understand that if you're having difficulty paying your utility bills, there is the winter termination program where your utility cannot shut you off for lack of timely bill payment. So whether if it's your PSE&G bill, they have an obligation to work with you, and they do have that moratorium where they cannot shut off your power during the winter months. So please avail yourself of the winter termination program if you are in need this holiday season. With that, I just want to wish everybody, I guess, a happy and healthy New Year and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I will open the meeting to public comments on any item any member of the public wishes to bring to the attention of the council. Madam Clerk, would you please read the public participation statements? We've had some people come in that were not here before.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter, if you're attending by Zoom, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. If you're dialing in by phone, please press *9. If you're attending in person, please raise your hand before approaching the lectern. Once recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You're not required to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be posted on the township's YouTube channel, and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There'll be no cross dialogue during this public portion. After everyone wishing to speak has been heard, the council may address your comments and your questions.
Thank you. Floor is open. Sir?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, folks. My name is Joseph Panullo. I live in Essex Fells. I'm here on behalf of We Care, New Jersey. We are the objectors in the 500 unit development on the border of our Essex Fells, Verona, northwest corner of West Orange. And I came here to read into the record, and if anybody would like it, to give you a copy of something that I think you should be aware of. The developer submitted an application. Permits to the DEP were approved for flood hazard area. Freshwater wetlands riparian zones, we have objected, we will object and continue to object to the issuance of that permit. But there are a few things that are deficient in the application, among them, all of the interconnections for sanitary sewer, potable water, storm sewer, et cetera, prior developments have included all those engineering designs and implications prior to even implementation of the planning board. However, there is a 1984 sanitary sewage agreement with the town of Verona, which handles in its treatment facilities sewage from 300 existing condos at the bottom of the hill that runs along an easement through the mountain uphill with a pump that goes across into wherever you take it now. There is a settlement agreement with the township, the developer, and the condo association that provides for, and I have a copy of the settlement and an exhibit to it, and with specificity to Verona, which is not named but referenced here. Section 23 of Exhibit D, West Essex Highlands does not intend to utilize the association's sewage pump station in connection with the proposed development. However, if engineering concerns and/or township require the use of association pump station, the developer shall at its own cost upgrade that station so that sewer services to the association are not adversely affected by the development. In that event, the developer will enter an agreement pursuant to which it will split the cost of maintenance for the pump station on a proportionate basis. If the developer needs to utilize the station, no upgrades to the station may be performed until developer and association enter into a separate agreement regarding use of and upgrades to that station, which the parties will negotiate in good faith. What's lacking in that clause is any reference to this 1984 agreement in the township of Verona, the notion of the township of Verona, the sanitary sewage the township takes now in lines which I believe are full, and there is no capacity estimation or disclosure to where this sanitary sewage for 500 units is going to go. We've asked for it, it's not on the record, it's not included, nothing to date that we're aware of has been presented to the joint meeting, which is in the service area. But they knew that when they submitted this document and agreed to this. That question remains unknown. The overflow goes down, as anybody knows, the stormwater permit is deficient, we'll argue that, but water goes down both sides of the mountain, east and west. We have many examples of the overflow, where that's all gonna go, how it's gonna affect Verona, where that sewage is gonna go, I don't know. I will urge Verona to, at minimum, consider appealing that decision, at least as much as it relates to your sanitary sewage handling this agreement, the absence of disclosure of that agreement in this document, or anybody's awareness here that that's even under consideration before the township and the developer or the DEP. So if it's okay with anybody, I did tag what I just read into the record for you here. It is publicly available, and I appreciate your time and thank you for any consideration. The January 3rd is the bar date. There's no limit on that to file an appeal for an adjudicatory hearing. And this municipality does have a particularized property interest and a non-speculative concern about this proposal and this permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanilla.
I appreciate it. Oh, happy holidays for Christmas. Have a good year.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Kevin Ryan.
Yes, good evening. Kevin Ryan, Verona, New Jersey. I have a question about the recent affordable housing issuance given by the state regarding our affordable housing obligations currently and going forward. A number of towns I've noted have decided to protest the allocation and to file a lawsuit. I recall that Verona a while back did hire an outside consulting group to come in and review our numbers. And I was wondering if we could be provided with an update as to what our position is regarding these allocations. If not tonight, at an upcoming meeting, it'd be much appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Next up, Jess Pearson.
Good evening, council and administration.
Sorry, your volume is very, very low and Kevin's wasn't.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for that solar presentation this evening. I thought you guys asked excellent questions. And to the point of the snow on the panels, I just would like the council to be very careful about any sort of chemical treatment that may be added to the panels. Please ensure that there are no PFAS in those treatments, because that just will be runoff that will drain right into our aquifers. And we're already paying a lot of money for PFAS remediation as it is. Obviously, some of those panels will be right next to one of our pumps, or right next to one of our wells, rather. So I'm just asking for care and concern when it comes to whatever type of treatment might be put on the panels. And I thank you for your consideration of that.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Mr. Lilly?
Good evening. Jesse Lilly, Verona, New Jersey. First, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and thank you for all the hard work you've done this year. My specific question to the council is regarding the property that was purchased by the town, the 11 acres in between Commerce Court and Brookside Terrace. It was my understanding that the 11 acres were submitted for Green Acres funding, which makes it exempt from development of housing or commercial use. And, you know, I may have missed it, but I just wanted to get an update. You know, has that application been fully completed? Have the Green Acre funds been received? And, you know, if this is not the case, can you please tell me the current status of the issue and what challenges the council is facing regarding that? Thank you very much, and I look forward to your answers.
Thank you, Mr. Lilly. Anybody else? Mr. Petrangeli?
Paul Petrangeli, Verona, New Jersey. Be quick today. I just had a question on the solar panels. Since we're designing Everett, were they involved in parking lot there or anything? I just wanted to know because that would be an extra just spot for them. And then is there lighting underneath the panels? And then the pitch of the panels would, if you could change the pitch, it would stop the snow. Obviously, you know, solar panels on the roof, you can't change that pitch. They come off hard. They make things that break up the ice and the snow as they fall. They make heater wires that you can put around so you don't have to do the chemicals. There's a lot of things. I install them a lot of times, these solar panels, and the base of them is literally a column. It's about 1.5 foot in diameter with a steel beam going up, and the only issue that really is ever an issue is people hitting them. So the bollards, putting them on either side, but with the parking and everything, you never lose spaces, and it's a great thing for the town.
Thank you, Mr. Pedro. Seeing no further public comment, I will close public comment. I thank Mr. Panullo, who's no longer here, for providing that information. There's a lot of history there, and thank you to the town administration and our legal counsel for reviewing that. To Mr. Ryan's question about the affordable housing numbers, that presentation will be on the January 20th meeting in public session when we pass our resolution related to what we believe our affordable housing number to be. And we'll provide more details at that point. To Ms. Pearson, thank you for your comment on the chemicals. I agree with you, and the point is well taken about any chemicals near the wells. And I hope that there are some non-chemical mechanisms that we can use. To Mr. Petrangeli's point on that, based on, it looks like the bottom of the one side of the panel is about 5 feet lower than the other, so there is a pretty significant grade there for that. That should help with the snow removal, but I agree that some probably low expense things could be added to that as well, which we'll let the design engineers deal with. To Mr. Lilly, this was actually a topic at our open space committee meeting not too long ago, and we're discussing that property. Our consultant that has assisted us with Green Acres was on. There are just a couple pieces left in the in that reimbursement plan that have to be done, but it is on its way. I can't give you the exact specifics as to what those pieces are because I honestly can't. They're just not on the top of my head if I look back at my notes and stuff like that. But we can go back to that meeting. Do you know off the top of your head, Mr. Russell?
There
Like,
Oh, sorry.
2 encroachments from private properties that needed to be removed from the township acquired property. Those had been removed. The survey was updated and then resubmitted to Green Acres. So it has been submitted back down to Green Acres and for inclusion on the Verona Rossi.
excellent, thank you. And related to Everett, we did not have in this presentation anything related to Everett Field. I think the issue would be baseballs hitting this, so we tended to stay away from that as another piece there. And I think that that is it for everybody. Mr. Roman?
Regarding lighting underneath the panels, the drawings that we saw did show light coming from underneath them, but I would agree with you that should be a design concern to make sure that there's adequate lighting in those parking lots after the installation. We'll get to that as we get to the specifics if we move forward.
We'll certainly have the power. Any other responses or any public comments? Okay, hearing none. Moving on, we have one ordinance for adoption this evening. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2024-41 on second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
Moving the municipal elections from May to November.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion is made by Councilman Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made by Councilwoman Holland. Now is the time for the public hearing on ordinance number 2024-41. Same public comment statement applies. However, you are limited to this ordinance. Hearing none, I hereby close public comment on this item. Is there any council discussion that was not brought up last meeting? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Yes.
Councilman Roman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy.
Yes.
Mayor Tamburo.
Yes.
Mayor ordinance 2024-41 passes 5-0, will be published according to law.
Thank you. And I would hope that we could do a lot of PR on this, just so people are aware. Yeah.
I'm calling the county tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, no, just so people are aware. I know you are. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do that first week in May, you know? But
She's gonna go on vacation.
No, but if we could get our PIO out just to explain what has happened in the ordinance and so people know not to expect an election. And so potential candidates know that they don't need to start putting campaigns together, next month, as is the custom. All right. Moving on, this time we have our consent agenda. We have one set of minutes from December 2nd, as well as 12 resolutions. Was like to move the consent agenda. In fact, I'm going to move the consent agenda because I can. Is there a second? Second. Was that?
Sorry. Just item number 2.
No, I don't think I need to.
Okay.
All right. At this time, we'll open for public comment on the consent agenda, and we have Mr. Ryan, who has raised his hand. Kevin.
Yes, good evening again, Kevin Ryan, Verona, New Jersey. Mr. Mayor and Council, I would strongly urge you to remove item K3 from the consent agenda, authorizing the appointment of Mr. O'Sullivan as the next township manager. Simply for the reason that I don't think something as significant as this should be buried in a consent agenda. I think it should be voted on as a separate resolution. This has a very impactful impact, a very important impact, I should say, on the town going forward. There's no reflection on Mr. O'Sullivan, but it would be helpful if you could educate the public as to what your thought process was in doing this, and also what other alternatives they may have been just to outright making an appointment. In past history, we have had some rigorous debates over performances of town managers. So I think it would be helpful for the public for you to take this as an opportunity to educate them as to how a process like this proceeds. And as has often been mentioned by members of this council, we have a lot of new residents who have come in, and I think it would be very helpful if they knew your thought process going forward in making this appointment. Thank you.
Any comments? Hearing none, I close public comment. To Mr. Ryan's comment, that's exactly what I was going to do. So that's why we did not pull it from the consent agenda, because I was going to provide that context. Nobody requested a poll, but I am going to go through the process. That was also outlined in the resolution. I just also want to know for K2, the appointment of the OEM coordinator, that is a manager's appointment, technically. So we're just really just validating that.
You're acknowledging.
Yeah, they're acknowledging it. The manager's already appointed, Officer Martin, in that position by our code. So going to the K3, which is the authorizing our contract with Mr. O'Sullivan as township manager, will give a little procedural background on that. As the public may or may not be aware, our township manager, Mr. Diarco, after 56 years of service in local government and service to his country prior to that, has opted to retire. And we hired Mr. Diarco 3 years ago, with an understanding that this would be a 3-year contract, presumably due to his intentions. And we hired Mr. Diarco not only based on great interviews, but also his experience that we so desperately needed in a time that we were working on so many different projects. Previously we had a director of administration and economic development, which was a position created by the previous township manager to fill some needs, like not only the economic development piece, but also overseeing certain departments in municipality. And that evolved about 1.5 years ago into a deputy manager role. And the table of organization was shifted to have a real deputy, a real number 2 in that area. Mr. Diarco hired Mr. O'Sullivan for that position, as is his right as the township manager. Mr. O'Sullivan was previously the township administrator, the borough administrator in North Caldwell. So he came to Verona with a an excellent background was actually the chief officer of another municipality. In addition, he was the executive director of the Public Utilities Authority in Kearney and is a licensed professional engineer. Was a municipal engineer prior to that, so brings a wealth of knowledge. Mr. Diarco very wisely made that appointment, knowing the sheer amount of infrastructure projects and various other things we were going into. I'm not sure Mr. O'Sullivan knew what was going to hit him when he started, but he has risen to the challenge. Over the past about a year and a half, the Township Council has had the opportunity to work very closely with Mr. O'Sullivan. And as the public who looks at our meetings and watches our meetings notes a lot of the day-to-day reporting, Mr. Diarco very deliberately transitioned to Mr. O'Sullivan, and he had FaceTime throughout his experience directly with the council and attended every council meeting, which is new for that as far as the deputy manager position. And in doing so, Mr. Diarco established a succession plan for himself, which is very needed during the time that we have so many projects, and you can hear these updates. And Mr. O'Sullivan gives us the highlights of his report, but his bi-weekly reports to the council are 5 to 6 pages of text. So very, very detailed on that area. So Mr. Diarco indicated to us last month, or maybe in October, right at the end of October,
Yes, sir.
that he did intend to not ask for a renewal of his contract in February, which expires on the 6th of February. And at that time, Mr. Diarco made a recommendation to the Township Council based on the succession planning and Mr. O'Sullivan's performance, that the Township Council strongly considered Mr. O'Sullivan as his replacement. The Township Council at that point determined that we would want to interview Mr. O'Sullivan for that role, and asked Mr. O'Sullivan to create an entry plan and a transition plan with several questions and objectives that we provided, including short-term and long-term goals during his time, request of professional development, his strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat assessment of issues facing the town and positive pieces facing the town, and major initiatives and projects that needed to be done right away. Mr. O'Sullivan provided a very detailed and very intelligent report to the council, which we all vetted and then further interviewed Mr. O'Sullivan based not only on that document, but based on prior interactions and questions that we anticipated would face the council. We provided scenarios on a variety of different items, and Mr. O'Sullivan provided good answers on all of those, which brought the council to the point of wishing to take Mr. Diarco's recommendation of continuing with our succession plan, and which is beneficial to this township as we have so many major projects in the works. And Mr. O'Sullivan has proved that he is a dedicated and valued employee and an excellent leader in this municipality. So thus our recommendation, the council met to an executive session to discuss terms and conditions of Mr. O'Sullivan's employment, to discuss the interview and all those things. And we offered Mr. O'Sullivan the role after that. And we are very grateful that Mr. O'Sullivan has accepted that position. Is there anything I missed, council members? In the summary? No? And I'm just going to say, personally, Kevin, I look forward to voting on this in the consent agenda. And I'm going to speak to you at this point. You have proven yourself to be an excellent member of this township staff, and I'm honestly not sure what we've done without you over these years. And I thank Mr. Diarco profusely for creating a very intelligent and very well thought out transition plan for himself. Mr. Diarco fulfilled a need that we had for a highly experienced and highly versatile leader, and Mr. Diarco provided that. And was so committed to this township that he ensured that his position would be well filled after. So gentlemen have worked so well together as a team to the benefit of this community in so many ways. And I'm just excited to see how we continue that. So you have big shoes to fill, sir, and I look forward to voting on this. Any other? I don't think I have any other comments on anything else with the consent agenda. Any other comments from the council?
I will.
Deputy Mayor.
I will echo everything the mayor just stated. And to keep it simple, I was asked by a couple people about did we go through an interview process? And my answer to them was, for the last year, we've been going through an interview process since Mr. DiArco hired Mr. O'Sullivan. And I think you performed over and above what I thought you would do. And I thank you for it. I think Verona's in a better place. And I, again, look forward to working with you over the next 3 years plus.
Councilman Roman.
Jump in as well here. So yeah, having been here and watching this township evolve over the 9+ years I've been serving on this council, having kind of gone through the township manager transition and hire process a few times. We put a lot of work into this. This is, probably one of the most solemn responsibilities of this council is to choose the executive that is going to be leading the town going forward. It's someone who handles everything day to day, someone that we work very closely with, someone that provides strategic leadership for the council or for the township, someone that handles a very large workforce, a lot of money, a lot of large projects. So we are very, very deliberate in how we pursue these processes. I think if you look over the last couple of years, this town has gone through a very elegant process of managing leadership and leadership transitions. As the mayor said, we found ourselves in a position where we needed something very specific out of leadership, which was a very experienced leader who knew how to handle very large projects because we had a lot of them that needed to be done. And Mr. DiArco, we were very lucky to find at the time when we were looking. We had someone who had an absolute wealth of experience in working in New Jersey government and who also loved small towns.
And like Sendell.
Yes, he was extraordinarily excited to join Verona Township. We warned him in advance that we were going to keep him busy, and I think that we have kept up to that. He's just performed admirably, the amount of work that we've gotten done. But he's also a very good people leader, and he knows how to position an organization as such that it succeeds. Succession planning was a very big part of his role because we have we have some leaders that have only been here a little while, we have some leaders that have been here a long time, but the organization didn't have the formal level of succession planning that it really needed in every single department to make sure we were successful. He put a lot of this in place. One of the most important things was a succession plan for his own role. We agreed that we needed the position of deputy township manager, but it was very important that it be filled with the right person. And we were very lucky, again, to find Mr. O'Sullivan, who, in addition to having had those responsibilities of leading municipalities, has the experience as a professional engineer, understanding how utility systems work, understanding how to do construction management, while also understanding municipal law administration, employment matters, running public safety services, et cetera, everything else that goes into running a municipality. So again, we were very lucky and it shows how attractive Verona is as a workplace that we were able to attract such talent. We did go through, as the mayor mentioned, a very formal process with Mr. O'Sullivan. In addition to having watched his performance over his time here, and you've heard me comment a number of times that I've been very impressed at his project management skills as we've been going through these major projects, our PFAS remediation, all the work on wastewater treatment, road paving projects, building systems projects. He's been juggling a lot of this, and he's steadily been given more and more responsibilities. So he did have an ongoing interview, but he also did have to go through that formal interview process. We asked him for documentation. We asked him to detail what his own transition would look like entering into the role. And I was very impressed with what we got back from him. It was very detailed. He had obviously spent a lot of time considering what it would take to have a successful entry into this position and what his initial term would look like. And then we did go through, a formal interview with him where we presented him with a large number of questions on the documentation he had presented us, as well as some open-ended questions that he was not prepped for, basically, and we wanted to see how he would respond to them and react. And we were very impressed. So we put a lot of work into this decision. I'm very satisfied with the process. I'm very supportive of Mr. O'Sullivan as our next township manager. I'm 100% behind you. Thank you for everything that you've done for the township to this point, and we look forward to just ongoing success. And as you help position this town for its future, we're lucky to have you. I'm very proud to be voting on this, and look forward to your tenure here, this role. So thank you.
Councilwoman?
This is our opportunity to talk about the manager contract. I don't want to miss my opportunity for remarks.
No, please.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you, Joe. I will say for myself that when I ran for office, my platform was about all the different water and wastewater and stormwater related matters that we had to address in this municipality. And while knocking on doors, people would ask me like, oh, what are you even talking about? But they now all know about it. I want to say thank you for taking on those challenges, and thank you for bringing in Kevin to assist in really running those projects, because I think it has made a tremendous or it has been tremendously beneficial to the community for us to be addressing our water quality, our wastewater treatment plant, and our stormwater management programs. So thank you, Kevin, for your leadership there. Thank you, Joe, for bringing in Kevin and having that leadership. I think that's something that is really necessary for us as local government to address, to manage well, and to have somebody that is willing to undertake that, because it was a lot of work. It has been a lot of work, and it's not even done yet, right? So the work will continue. There will always be more work, but it is, getting us brought back up to speed has been a lot of effort. And I really want to compliment you for what you've done in these last 3 years here, and for bringing in Kevin, all of your leadership and all the work that is to come on these utilities and stormwater management facilities. I mean, obviously there's much more work to be done in other areas. And so we did hear this evening about our pool utility and the recreation program. So I do think that that is an area that's, perspective that we need to be addressing going forward. So I do look forward to your solutions and your leadership in our community. And thank you for everything. And in particular, thank you, Joe. So.
Councilwoman McGrath, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I was happy to go last on this one. First of all, I do want to thank Joe Diarco for all of the incredible 3 years. We were really in a pinch when we hired you. We were very lucky that it worked out that you were able to come to Verona. We did have some very specific needs. And I think when we had those interview conversations, you understood what you were getting involved in, and we understood what we were receiving in return. And it's really been a great relationship. And thank you so much for everything that you have been able to do. And I think, as we evolved, it was clear we need a deputy township manager. We are a very lean government, but we really need talented staff to solve these very complicated problems. And you found that in Mr. O'Sullivan. There was some gentle ribbing when I've met some of his previous council people that he worked with, that we took him, and they were very upset to lose him, and I knew that was for our gain. I think it's a great asset, Kevin, that you live in the town, that you have a family with young children. Our paths overlap at concerts often. And I think that's really important, because there's a lot of things that we need to address in the town to make sure that it continues to be an attractive place for people to settle and live, and really a town that works for everyone. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate your technical background. I think there will be some wonderful new challenges, which I think you are going to enjoy, that will, that we will face in the next year or two. And I know that you're a good listener. While often we're in agreement, I think you hear the differences at times, and that's a good thing. That'll make our work products stronger. And I know there's more, there's more unfinished business. I know, we had some things that didn't get done in 3 years. Government moves very slowly as much as we want to move fast. So you have some nice challenging projects ahead of you. And we are really excited, obviously, all 5 of us, on this transition, but we're gonna miss you a lot, Joe. So I don't wanna think about what February is.
We're still going month and a half.
We'll run into you at Lakeside Deli, it sounds like often.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen. And one final thing on K2, the word detective should be stricken every time
Okay.
from that resolution, please. All right, hearing no further comment on the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes,
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamburo.
Yes.
Mayor, resolutions K1 through K12 will be numbered 242 through and including 253.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on, we have no addendum this evening. There is a line in our new and unfinished business for a rent control board appointment without a name. Do we have?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sean Byrne, I'm sorry.
Okay,
He's a currently sitting member.
okay.
Sorry, Sean.
To move that appointment.
So,
Motion is made by the deputy mayor. Is there a second?
second.
Second is made by Councilman Roman. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Any other new or unfinished business before the council?
Real quick, Mr.
Deputy
Mayor, thank you. I just want to know if we could add to the agenda, since we've been doing this for quite a while now. On the agenda itself, putting in public comment
I think
again.
we have to change the ordinance for
Okay,
the
after
agenda.
council reports.
Yeah, so.
I like week after week,
Correct.
before meetings, I do receive.
Yeah,
calls.
I add in, so what, can we add that on for our work to change the
You want to
ordinance?
amend the ordinance?
Yeah, amend the ordinance to include it, I think we had piloted that under Mayor Roman's administration and we've continued it, and I think that it is a reasonable place, but especially if you have a long new business discussion, put it there, so. Is anybody opposed to?
No.
No, so.
The public appreciates it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can add that to the agenda, for January to change the municipal code. All right, we'll start off with a bang, January. All right, any other new business? Okay, I will open for public comment on any item anybody wishes to bring forth to the council. We have very few people left, but Kevin, Mr. Ryan, you're up.
I'm just here to thank you for the work that you've done this year. Having been there for many years myself, I know it takes a lot of dedication on your part. So I want to thank you for your willingness to serve, and also have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a Happy Holidays. Thank you very much.
You too, Mayor Ryan. Thank you. Seeing no further public comments, I close public comments at this time.
Sorry.
Are we going to an executive session this evening?
Yes, yes. We have one.
Will we be taking any official action?
No.
All right, well, folks, we'll see everybody in the new year on January 6th.